All right, so welcome to everyone who has joined and is now joining. My name is Michelle de Rosario, and I'm a technical director at Zynga, where I lead a team of engineers to design and develop games that people around the world love to play every day. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about power and influence, more specifically, how you can develop your leadership presence within yourself and within your team. So, first, I want to recognize you in the audience who have joined us. I said hi to you already for a few of you coming in, but I want to recognize that you are either an aspiring leader, someone who is thinking about becoming a leader and working toward it currently. Perhaps you're an existing leader, someone who is already directing an organization, or someone who is leading a team already. And if you don't identify as either of those, I would like to call you a potential leader, because at the end of the day, you have the potential to develop your leadership skills, and we're going to show you how. So you may be asking, Michelle, what is leadership presence? I mean, I hear this word executive presence, I hear leadership presence. What does this mean? Let's define this. Let's take apart the words and see them as they are and then put them back together. So leadership is your ability to define a vision and direct others to achieve that vision. It's your ability to lead. So that seems pretty straightforward. Presence can be interpreted as occupying a physical space. It also, in this case, will be seeing it as your ability to project a certain appearance, whether you want to cultivate that appearance to be that of strength or poise or of leadership. So together, leadership presence is your ability to project leadership. It's your ability to project that you know how to define a vision and direct other people to execute against your vision. Cool, now we know what leadership presence is. You're asking, Michelle, okay, how can I build my leadership presence? And the good news is that I'm going to break these up into 3 core facets. And the first of these facets is confidence. I'm sure many of you have heard this before, yes? Confidence is your ability to trust in yourself and to impart that, to project that confidence so that other people will trust in you as well. Competence is your ability to do, and some capability of yours, to do a task and do it proficiently and efficiently. And this is important because when you project competence, along with confidence, people are aware that you are sure of yourself and your ability and capabilities, and they can also trust you to do very difficult tasks. And finally, charisma. And I know this one could be a little bit of a minefield for some, but really it's not that hard. It's about being magnetic. It's about getting people to connect with you as a human and be approachable. So that's not too hard. I want to focus on confidence first because this is the one I'm sure most of you have heard. I'm sure you've been in a one-on-one or you received feedback from someone and they said, you do great at all these things, but you don't seem confident. You really need to work on your confidence. And so I really want to make a distinction here between internalization of confidence and communication of confidence. What I mean by internalization of confidence is, do you feel confident already? Like, do you feel confident in yourself? Do you feel confident in your skills? That is different from projecting confidence. So internalization, if you don't feel confident you could do a job, I'm not going to have that in the scope of this talk because this is something you can figure out by getting more information. And that could be identifying which skill you're lacking and getting training. Or it can be, if you're not sure what's expected of you in a situation or in your work capacity, you can talk to your director or your manager to get information and get clarity. And in that way, that clarity will provide you more confidence because you know exactly what's expected and you can go work on the skills needed. So again, not in the purview of this conversation, but going back to communication, this is how you actually present. Remember, we want to project we are confident. And that is different from being told that you don't feel confident, because you may feel confident, but someone might say you don't look confident. And those are very clashing perspectives. So with communication, the way to do this is going to be able to do 2 simple tasks, really. 1, you're going to start using I instead of we. And that doesn't mean stop using we, it just means use I a little more. If you're like me, you were raised to be modest, right? You were raised to say, I'm going to give credit to everyone around me and my work will show through already. And this is okay, but it doesn't project the confidence you need as a leader. Instead, it's fine to give credit to your team, but also give credit to yourself. And we'll see in an example in a little bit how you can do that. The next strategy is going to be responding with focus. And really the goal here is to reduce hesitancies. You want to reduce the chances and the times you say, or you do this really awkward pause, right? Like that is not projecting confidence. That's projecting that you're not sure of yourself, right? The exact opposite of confidence. And so we're going to look into some ways you can actually respond with focus in a way that gives you time to still use the and uhs, but without using the and uhs, because really the purpose of and uhs is to give you a little bit like a brief second, right, to talk, right, and think about what you want to say. So let's jump into some examples, right? Let's say you're a software engineer and you just refactor some code and you're in a one-on-one with your boss right now and they say, okay, what have you done this week? And you could say, we refactored the code, which made it more efficient. That sounds great. However, you just diluted your confidence. You diluted your contributions because nowhere in there do I know what you've done. I know what we as a whole have done, but again, it's like, okay, what did you do? So let's take that first example of I versus we. I refactored the code, which made it more efficient. All right, done, right? Yes and no. So this is a good start, but some of you may be saying, this is a little bit weird. I feel like I'm bragging. And I think the way to get over that uncomfortable feeling within yourself is to really say, I'm not bragging, I am sharing facts. I am sharing exactly what I've done, and it's just a fact. It's information sharing. And when you pose it as that to yourself, you'll find that it doesn't seem like you're bragging because you're literally just telling them what you just did. So it's different if you go, I refactor the code and I'm the best ever. Okay, that's a little weird, but I refactor code is just a fact. But let's say you worked in a group, right? Let's say I did work with a group, it wasn't just a lone effort. That's fine, give credit and then take credit for yourself. So refactor the code, which made it more efficient. And that's the part where you already distributed the credit to your team. Take credit for yourself now. And I own rewriting the Z subsystem, which led to performance improvements of P%. And this is the part where people will now recognize that you have an authentic voice. You have a personhood. You are in this conversation. You are contributing. And they know exactly what part you contributed. It's the Z subsystem part. And they know exactly what the impact was, which is performance improvements of P%. This is what's going to help you demonstrate confidence because you're able to show, I exist in this team. It's not just a we effort. Again, it's not all about just we or just I. You need a mixture of both, but remember to always keep attention to yourself. So let's say now you have attention on yourself and you're getting asked a question that you don't know the answer to. Let's say I ask you, how are you planning for X? And most of us, when we get caught off guard, we will just kind of deer in the headlights moment. I don't know. Saying I don't know is fine. I don't want I don't know to be vilified here. It's the projects this lack of confidence in your ability to go find the information and go tell this person what they want to know. Instead, own the I don't know. I don't know. Let me investigate and I will get back to you. This right here, again, it's fine to not know something. It's not about, confidence isn't about knowing everything. It's about being sure of yourself to go find the information or go do the task. And so, I don't know, let me find the information. It's going to show them, okay, you don't know right now, but you are capable of finding this out and telling us later. So we'll look forward to that. Great. On the other hand, if you already know the answer, just tell them, I am planning for X by doing Y and Z. The key here is that I reuse that I am planning for X instead of saying as my ability to give myself a moment to think. It's kind of like repeating a question back. So if someone asks you a question like how you plan for X, you can, if you need that moment that you normally say because you need a moment to just kind of like think, you can use the question instead and say, I am planning for X, and then say what you need to say, right? And this focus is what's going to show and project confidence because, again, it's not about knowing all the answers. It's about being able to respond quickly and in a way that is self-assured, but not, in a weird egomaniac way. Since we've been talking about knowing things and not knowing things, this is a great segue into competence. And with competence, this is about, again, your ability to do something proficiently and efficiently. I want to say here that when you talk about competence, you are speaking for your work. You may say, Michelle, I work really hard. My work is, paramount for the whole team to function, and it's self-evident. Without my work, everything will crumble. Yes and no. Your work doesn't speak for yourself because unless someone's really listening to it and paying attention to it, they are most likely just going to take it for granted. And they won't know that you did the work. They will know that something's working, but they don't know you did it. And so that's why you need to speak for your work. And you do this with two simple strategies. One, you share your value concisely, and you do this by saying, I worked on this thing, and this is how it's impacting our productivity, our product, our process, or our, in my case, player base, but our users, right? Like the end goal here is to really take care of our users. And then in addition to showing what it is that you did, the value, right? You want to quantify the impact of this. It's not enough to say we did a great thing. How much of a great thing did we do? Like, what was a great thing, right? So let's look into our previous examples of refactoring code, yes? I refactored the code, which made it more efficient. This is very concise, and it shows a little impact. It made something efficient. I don't know what efficient, and I could use something else besides it, but the key here is that I don't know how efficient it was. A better way to rewrite this would be, I owned rewriting the Z subsystem. Again, very clear about what thing I did, which saw performance improvements of P%. The numbers, quantifying the impact. And now you'll notice this next part here, and allowed players to play on low-end devices at 60 FPS, frames per second. This is key because what you'll notice in communication, all the things we talked about so far are communication, right? In this communication, I'm paying attention to what my audience cares about. They care about different motivations, right? So a director and senior executives are probably going to want to know, how are you hitting their KPIs? How are you hitting their key performance indicators? And those things usually are product, process, and how does it do with our players, or how does it do with our users, right? So with that last bit of showing I'm impacting all these users, you really get to show that I care about what you're thinking about, who you're talking to, the audience, and this is how I'm framing it, right? The other parts still give credence to what you've done, but now you're putting it into a bigger perspective. And this is really going to speak really loudly to your competence, because now not only are you're not just doing a task, you are showing how that task is important to the whole company as a whole. So it's important to connect that, right? And now that I've talked about competence, I want to talk about charisma, because confidence and competence is great if you're a solo person, but it's not enough to be a leader. As a leader, you need to be able to lead other people to execute on the vision, right? Leadership presence. And so let's talk about charisma and how you can get people to be drawn to you, how you can have this magnetism so that people want to work with you and they want to work for you. So charisma, again, we've been talking about communication versus internalization of all these different facets, right? We've been talking about communication with verbal, but now we're going to talk about communication in terms of your physical appearance. And I'm not talking about how you dress. I'm talking about, that does help, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about how you use your body to communicate with people and how you engage with people. There's a couple of simple strategies here too. Supplementary gestures. When I talk about supplementary gestures, I'm talking about your hands, right? I'm talking about, what are your hands doing when you're talking to somebody? And for most of us, research has shown that women tend to use hand motions more than men. And it's not a bad thing. Hand motions can be a powerful signifier of your social standing. It can show you have authority in situations. However, your hands must be reinforcing the message you're talking about. And it needs to go in line with your communication, because if it doesn't, it gets distracting. It doesn't do anything. Like, well, what am I doing with my hands, right? This is weird. And I'll show a little bit more of that in a bit. But supplementary gestures can be very powerful, but it can also be very dangerous. So it's a high risk, high reward kind of thing, I would say. The next part here is warmth and likability. And this again is going with your communication and engagement with people. This is about how do you make people feel like you are human and connecting with them. If you are a robot and you talk like you're not engaged with people, you talk like you're only waiting for, you're hearing people, but you're not listening to them, you're just waiting for them to finish their piece so you can talk, that's not engaging. That doesn't show the strength of a leadership, right? You need to be able to say, I'm engaging with you, I'm listening to you, and I'm taking in, again, your motivations, your KPIs, what you care about, and I'm going to help you solve whatever you want to solve. And a little bit of friendliness is really the goal here. It's approachability. It's being able to say, hey, yeah, I know that person, I see them, and I want to go approach them. They don't feel intimidating. They don't feel like they're so aloof. I feel like I can go talk to that person as a human. So the key here is being a human and connecting with the humans, and instead of being a human trying to connect with a robot. So really quick, a quick demonstration about the supplementary gestures I was mentioning earlier. I did a little bit of it, but you've probably been seeing me do this throughout the throughout this presentation, I've been showing you like reinforcing hand motions, and I showed you a little bit about how if I just wave my hands or I'm fiddling my hair, I'm doing things that like seem kind of like nervous tics. This is over exaggeration, of course. Like I hope none of you are doing this, but if you do that, oh no, you can't see me. Hold up. I assume y'all can see me still. Okay, thank you. I just saw a chat in there about something. So yes, also a great point, communicating with you all. My point here is that when you start doing weird hand gestures, it doesn't reinforce what you're doing. But if you start doing reinforcing gestures such as, today I'm going to talk to you about 3 things. I'm going to talk to you about 1, how we define leadership presence. 2, how there are 3 facets of leadership presence that you can internalize and communicate so that you can project leadership presence. And 3, the fact that these are simple strategies anyone can do. You've seen right there, 1, 2, 3. I've been able to reinforce the message instead of just doing weird hand motions. So with that, I want us to take a moment to recap on a couple of things and see what we've learned so far. I have again posited that leadership presence is your ability to project leadership, and this is defining a vision for others to follow and directing people to follow that. I've shared that there are 3 core facets for leadership presence, and these include confidence, your ability to trust in yourself so that others will trust in you. Competence, your ability to demonstrate that you know what you're doing and your tasks, your proficiency and efficiency at doing these tasks has a real value that impacts your company's product, your company's process, or your company's KPIs. And charisma, which is your ability to be approachable, because this is the key point that ties in all 3 things together. Because without the charisma, you're not really being able to lead people, you're just being a solo autonomous unit that does something really well. So the charisma and the ability to connect and engage with people is paramount. And finally, again, I've posited that these are all simple strategies. In each of these core facets, we've learned that there's just a couple simple things you need to do, like start saying I to give yourself a voice, your authentic voice, and to be recognized among people. Speak to your work. People aren't going to be paying attention very closely, but you can tell them about what you're doing and how it impacts the things they care about, their own motivations. And again, being a person, communicating with people and listening, engaging, not just waiting for them to finish talking so you can say something. These are all simple things anyone can do. And so as a result, if anyone can do these strategies, everyone has the potential to develop their leadership presence. And I think that makes it so exciting to see all of you here with us, because again, all of you have the potential to develop your leadership presence. And as a result, the next time we meet, I hope to see you in the room and your leadership presence as well. I believe we have a few moments here for a couple questions, so I'm just going to take a look real quick about what we have, unless there's any burning questions here. Yes, I will be sharing these slides for those who wish to know. I have my contact information here if you have further questions or something you want to talk about, or you like this presentation. I encourage you to tell the organizers and reach out to me. I'm happy to continue this discussion. So, let's see. I think there was one point someone mentioned earlier here about being not taken seriously in the room. So I think that's projecting better confidence and leadership when working remote. Yes, great question. So thank you, Gabrielle. How can you project better confidence and leadership when working remotely? It is a little bit difficult because you're obviously not in the same room, but as you can see, I can show myself in the camera right now. I will admit it's a little stiff right here in the seat. Like I prefer to get up and walk around, right? But the way you can do this is, again, doing these simple things where it's like you give credit to yourself. You talk about what you're doing in facts, like I did this thing and it impacts these KPIs, these things that you care about, you being the person you're communicating with, right? And if you find that people are not listening, depending on which software you're using, like Zoom or whatnot, there's different things in there where you can like raise your hand, or you can even, there's this term I like called nemawashi. It comes from Japanese business. Essentially, it's laying the groundwork. If there's something you want to say in a meeting beforehand, go talk to people around before the meeting and see if they'll get on board with what you're saying, right? Like say, I have this idea, I want to pitch it to you, what do you think? Again, engaging people with that charisma and sharing the ideas. And afterward, you can hopefully get them on board. So when you go into the meeting, everyone knows what you're talking about. And when you present it again, you already have some advocates for you who will back you up. Let's see, I see there's a couple other questions here, and unfortunately I am out of time. I believe they'll be shutting off this session very soon. So please, your questions, I don't know if the chat will stay open, and so I don't want to miss these. Please reach out to me either through my email or my LinkedIn, and I'm happy to follow up. Oh, I can continue, Miriam? Okay, cool. Let's see. Let me just go back up here. How can I make sure my point is heard, even though I tell good actionable points, sometimes it goes unheard? Again, I believe, Mina, thank you for that. I mentioned a little bit earlier, do the Nemawashi technique. Talk to people prior to the meeting, especially if you have a good point you already know in advance, and get them on board. If the point becomes salient in the middle of the meeting, try to bring it up, and it falls apart. Like, take credit for it. It's like, oh, someone else brings it up again. Say, yes, I agree that I said that too. Like, give the credit back to yourself that way, in that way. How would you recommend projecting confidence via nonverbal communication through body language, aside from controlling hand gestures? Part of your face, actually. Your face is a big thing. If you're kind of like, that's not very engaging. So Shira, if you want to project more confidence, be like looking at the camera, give the eye contact. Slouching in your chair like this doesn't look good. Being up forward and, leaning in for a better term is, something you can do. And again, just a smile every now and then helps people connect with you. I'm not saying you have to smile all the time. You don't want to smile like a psycho because that's weird. But okay. Lazuli, sorry, asked, I'm confident to speak up in sleep leadership. Sometimes I get dismissed when speaking up. Repost. I believe I covered this. If not, please follow up with me. For entry level, how can we confident while expressing ideas to seniors and team members? Great question, Alina. You can be confident while expressing ideas because if you, again, do that Nemawashi technique, talk to people outside the meetings beforehand, that will help. But if you can find and identify someone in there who is actually open to listening and open to hearing you, find that person and ask them for their time. Hey, I really want to talk to you about these things I have. Would you mind hearing me out? And something as simple as, setting up a little 10-minute thing, saying, I only need 10 minutes of your time. Can I talk to you like privately or something? I really want to talk about this. Set the expectation up front. Set your intention. I want to talk to you because you seem like you really understand. You seem like you are open to this discussion, and I would value your time to share with you some ideas I have. When you share your intention up front and then set a time limit about how much time you want from people, especially from senior executives, they can be very busy people. So, 10 minutes is a lot for them. 10 minutes is a lot for them. Setting it up in this way shows that you're focused and you are going to be concise. Again, conciseness is a huge thing, and you get to the point and how it hits their KPIs. Esther asks, what would I say is the differentiator / balance of showing confidence without being arrogant or off-putting? Again, showing confidence, Esther, without knowing exactly how you're showing or what you worry about being arrogant or off-putting, I would just say a lot of it is internal, like self-doubt. If you can just tell yourself, I am sharing facts, and if you say this in a very annoying tone somehow, oh my gosh, I'm the best, I did all this work, I refactored everything, that can be kind of off-putting, right? But you say, hey, I'd like to share that I did this work and it was impactful because it did these things to help the company. There's nothing arrogant about that. It's literally facts. Just remind yourself you're sharing facts, and if there's no interpretation in there about how you thought things went. It's just facts are, I did this thing and it helped this thing. Let's see. How would I project competence by ensuring my contributions do not get stolen for credit by coworkers? So Chin, or Chin, this can be something where I don't know exactly the situation you're in, how people are stealing it. Are they saying they did the work and you didn't have any part of it? Because in that case, you say, actually, I was there, I did this, and point to what you did, right? And if you feel like, oh, well, I don't want to deal with that confrontation, right? That's really direct for me, and I don't know if I could do that in the middle of a meeting. You can follow up with your manager. Hopefully you have a great relationship, and if you don't, you should be building one, or at least building one with an advocate who may not be your manager, but someone who can advocate for you, and tell them, hey, I didn't really like what this person did. I will tell you, though, that by doing this, like, one, you're able to share your feelings with someone, but the bigger thing is everyone's going to tell you, well, it's conflict resolution. You're going to have to go talk to that person. And because if they don't know they're doing this, you can't fault them. And I don't necessarily agree that that's always true, but that's going to be the HR thing you get told. And so you're going to need to be able to say, well, I'm going to be an adult about this. I'm going to be mature. I'm going to go tell this person, hey, you said something in the meeting where you said you did X and Z, and I did Z. You know, I would appreciate next time if you would give me credit for that. Or, you know, you could say, hey, if you feel confident in the meeting, you could tell them in the meeting, hey, as so-and-so mentioned, X and Z was done, and I was proud to have been the one working on Z, right? In this way, you could still bring credit to yourself, but it's one of these things where, like, how comfortable do you feel with conflict resolution? Because at the end of the day, you should probably talk to this person directly about, like, what they did to make you feel, because if they continue doing it, it's just going to get worse, right? But at least if you bring it up, there's no excuse. You told them, hey, I noticed this thing happened. Can we talk about this? And more oftentimes than not, that will be fine. All right. I just want to make sure I'm getting these questions, but Miriam, can you also tell me how much time we have? I want to be respectful of other people's times when they might want to be going too. So please let me know when we have a hard stop. Let's see. Lauren asks, what has been my experience as a woman in the gaming industry so far? Any tips for breaking into the industry as a woman? Very inspiring. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, so I guess I should preface that I've always been a gamer. I think my mom swallowed an NES when she had me in the womb, because I came out playing video games very early. And so I have found that, again, keep in mind that this advice is something where I don't have a lot of other reference points. I haven't worked in any other industry besides gaming, unless you count virtual reality, but that was in academic research at Stanford. So I would say that my experience so far has been, I think it's been great so far. And I think that the reason why I can say this is I've been very fortunate. My career started with startups. So in a startup, I've been able to own a lot of different responsibilities and wear different hats. And that can be dangerous if you're not used to that kind of level of autonomy and that level of, like, chaos, because it is chaotic. But if you thrive in that kind of relationship, and I do, I enjoyed it, right? And now working at Zynga, it's a much larger organization. And so there's been some transitions I've had to have for, okay, well, now I'm very, focused on a particular integration of something, right? And I think it's even better because I don't want to go into self-promotion too much, but in Zynga, we really do have leaders who care about us and invest in our own employee resource groups. They invest in programming for leadership development. And I actually sit on the board for our Women at Zynga employee resource group, and I head our STEAM initiative for outreach of communities who don't normally get to reach and see what it's like to work in gaming. And so these are things that a larger company has afforded, and I'm very proud that Zynga does this. In my other companies, we were much smaller. We didn't have that kind of bandwidth nor money to finance these things. So overall, I'd say it's been great. As far as breaking in, I think a lot of it is you just gotta, apply. People are always wanting to hire, and the best thing to do besides applying is reach out to someone like me, and we can help, connect you with the recruiters. We can help you connect with talent acquisition so that you can be seen more and really, express why you want to be in gaming too, because the biggest thing about gaming is it's a passion thing. You'll hear all the time, it's a labor of love, because we love making games. We want to make games. So, okay. 4 minutes. Okay, so I think we got time for one more question. So I'm going to take it from Kayla here. How can you surpass expectations with your work? How can you go beyond stating your work and the results that to stand out when sharing with management? Okay, so how can I surpass expectation work? Well, first is to understand what are the expectations of you at work, right? Like, and that's simple as just having a conversation with your manager or director. You say, hey, what's going on? What can I be doing to achieve? What does it take to achieve and, go beyond expectation, right? Having a conversation is critical because if you don't have this conversation with your manager, you could be doing what you think is going beyond, and maybe it is, but your manager has no clue. Again, going back to the speak for your work part, being able to say, hey, I want to have this continuing discussion. It's not a one-time conversation that you slip in at the end of your one-on-one. It's something that you have in every one-on-one or most one-on-ones. And you say, hey, I want to just follow up about what I'm doing, how's my process going, how am I progressing? And again, sharing your intention. Why do you want to go beyond, and how can your manager help you with that? What are ways that you are thinking about doing this yourself, right? And when you set it up and frame it with this kind of intention and this roadmap for people, you essentially kind of do their job for them, but that's good because then you're helping them help you, right? So beyond just saying, hey, boss, I'm doing these things, which great point, Kayla, like you want to do something more than that. You can say, I'm doing these things right now and I feel like I'm exceeding in my job. I want to be doing more because you want to be a director or whatever it is, the motivation you have to show them the pathway that this roadmap you have for yourself, right? Because if you just say, I want to get good or I want to get better, there's really no way to measure that, right? So being able to say, I want to be I want to be a director by, the end of 2022 or something, right? That's very clear, like, okay, you have an expectation and a timeline. Now, if you're like, hey, I want a promotion by the end of the year, okay, there's a timeline and expectation. You may not get that, but at least you can begin the discussion, right? So really it's about having a discussion with your manager and seeing what are the expectations so far? What can you do to do more than expectation? And then really the key thing that's going to help you here is thinking about what you can do to help your boss get you there, because your boss has to advocate for you. And the easier you make your boss's job by saying, look, I'm doing the things that you and I talked about and we agree that this will help us, you can easily say, well, hey, we're on the same page. You know what I've been doing. We agree that this is the right path. You're not going down some path on your own and then being like, oh crap, no one wanted that. And your boss is aware, which is the biggest thing, so they can advocate for you. And this advocacy really needs to come early on in the process, because trying to do this at the end of the year is too late. By that point, decisions are already made. You need to do it at the beginning of the year, really, and it's an ongoing process. All right, so I hope that answers all of your questions. If you have follow-up questions you want to have, please reach out to me. I'm happy to connect with you. My LinkedIn is there. You can hit me up on my work email. And again, please, if you really enjoy this session and this Q&A, please let the organizers know, and I'm happy to talk more. So thank you all for your time, and thank you for these great questions. I meant it when I said I look forward to seeing you in the room, because I do look forward to seeing you and your leadership presence in the room. Enjoy the rest of your conference, everyone. Thank you.